So we were just DMing on Twitter, and we were talking about this live game show concept, and it sounds like you have a lot of ideas or questions and stuff. So I figured, hey, let's just hop on a live stream. We can discuss it. So
Hmm.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks. This is really, I've never done this before, so this is really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, you came on our Highlighter live stream shows before, right? Like we did. I thought we did a few of those. Did we do those or no?
I don't think I did.
Oh, you know what? I was just trying to remember, when did we meet just on Twitter? Was it?
Yeah, you tweeted out about what you're working on. I think it's called something else at the time, but I remember like I saw your tweet and I DM'd you, like how is this going to work when the house party didn't work? Like what are you doing
Mm.
differently? And then we just started talking from there.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep. Yep. Cool. It's like we've been through so many different group chats and various places. I didn't recall the
Hmm.
origin, but yeah, that sounds right. um, so yeah, so the structure of the service right now is, is kind of, you can hang with all friends, or you can set up these groups, and then when you're in a group or in all friends, you can do other like entertainment activities. You can do things like, like watch YouTube. Will be kind of launching in the next kind of day or so, or you could play like a pub quiz style trivia, which you can just launch asynchronously whenever you want. Play with your friends. You're hanging out, you're talking, you're just like having fun. It's just like something to do, context of hanging with
Hmm.
friends, something to do, some content for that. But then we've been discussing this idea of like like a almost like a live game show, and
Hmm.
sort of what would that feel like and look like, and how should that work? So it sounds like you've been thinking about that too, or have some ideas on that. Like, what are sort of like the big
Yeah.
things you have in mind?
Yeah, so like one thing that like I'm kind of thinking about with groups is groups make a lot of sense once the only use of the app is like hanging out with friends, because then a group serves like a lot of utility. Like you're primarily using the group as like an organizational function for like
Mm-hmm.
talking to a specific set of people, right? Because the app starts to become more about like live content, like if that's the motivating factor, like you're going onto the app to like you want to hang out with people to consume some set of live content, like that's the trigger. I'm worried that like groups would be like an extra like hurdle you have to overcome, like oh I want to go on the app and like watch this live content that like is going on right now. It's like it's blowing
Mm-hmm.
up on Twitter, it's like very hype, but maybe it's like HQ trivia style or whatever, but then now I have to choose which group and like which set of people. Like I might have overlapping people in the groups as well. It's like which one do I
Right.
activate at what point? And then it's just like I'm worried that it would make it more confusing. I think versus just like going on the app and there's a live stream going on, and even if no one is there, I remember like one thing was like the waiting time, like when people have to wait for people to get on the app, like the call time.
Yeah.
Like you're mentioning how like you're talking about whether people should be able to like experience stuff solo. Like I feel like if there is a solo experience, that could like mitigate the problem of like
Mm-hmm.
the wait time. You know what I mean? Like the live experience starts, you go on the app, you start like playing with the thing, and then your friends start showing up as well. So that's kind of my thought process.
Right. So then in that world, so I agree with the like knowing if you should go to the all friends or the groups is like a little bit of mental load that's kind of different than the other thing. And I
Hmm.
wonder if it were to be more like let's imagine, just to simplify UX, let's imagine that you only, you could almost just like play a game, and when you play the game, your default in a room that all friends could show up in, but not like the group structure. So basically, like you could play solo, or if
Hmm.
somebody else is around, they just show up connected to you. And so
Hmm.
you come here kind of ready for a solo experience, but other people can show up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that seems really fun to me. It's kind of like how the app used to be like a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
But
mhm.
like, I mean, let's just say, like, nothing is, nothing is everything's changeable, right? So like,
Yeah, yeah.
what is the best experience? Like, if the live content is really core, should that happen independent of the friend hangs or the group hangs, or like, do you see those as like really different things, or do you think they actually can integrate nicely?
I think it depends on like who you're building for, like what the use case is, because like I'd imagine like right now the group serves like a lot of functionality because of like people come back from school, they're tired after high school or whatever, and the default action they do is like I think a lot of like high schoolers and stuff, they go on a FaceTime after school and they do homework and whatever together. And now
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a group, like it makes a lot of sense that you have those established groups. You just hop in there and you do your homework together, right? But
Yep.
like with this like live game stuff, like the motivation might be different. It's not like I'm going there just to like meet with this set group of people. It's like I'm going there to have like a really fun, viral, fresh experience every single day or every single week or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think the way you think about voice changes based off that, if that makes sense. Like, it's not really important. Like, it doesn't really matter if I'm talking to this subset of group because it's not so much about the conversation. It's more about the experience and like the fun about everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I see how they can be seen as like two separate things. I think if you just come to play by yourself, then it
Mm-hmm.
feels to me like you're kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of things you can do by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and it just feels like doing things live with people feels like a very different type of thing that hasn't been super
Mm-hmm.
explored. But doing
Mm-hmm.
things like by yourself, like you can download like a quiz game from the internet and play it, and
Yeah.
maybe it's got video in it, or maybe it's not. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels like you could end up in this space where like, I don't know, it's already been pretty well explored, whereas the space of like how people gather like on Discord is is kind of feels fresher and newer than sort of the way, you know, you might just like download some app from, you know, from like the app store. I mean, even if there's like a live experience in there, like even that could have been recorded, right? Like, so it doesn't feel like
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't feel that fresh to me in a way. But I don't know, like maybe there's a way to
Mm-hmm.
make it work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you thinking about like like basically are you talking about like how much of the app is focused on like the game versus how much is focused on like the live experience and interactivity, like that type of thing?
Yeah, yeah. I think like so today the whole app is focused on gathering and hanging with friends, and then like later this week we'll have like a couple of the activities you can do with friends. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really focused on like we call it like the couch, right? So you're hanging out
Mm-hmm.
on the couch, you're like shouting at the TV, you know, you're
Mm-hmm.
shouting at, you know, like, oh, let's turn on that one, or let's flip to
Mm-hmm.
that, right? So we do this a lot, like when we're testing like the YouTube video sharing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like somebody shares a video and then that reminds me of a video. Oh, you've got to see this one, and then oh, you got to see this one. You know, kind of that YouTube watch party.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really focused on like the people that gather and kind of the friends. You know, kind of like creating that couch to like watch TV together.
Mm-hmm.
Hosting like a live hosted game show, you know, could be a totally separate thing. Like you could imagine doing it not in a social context at all, not doing it with friends, and just coming to
Mm-hmm.
play the game show. Maybe
Yeah,
that
yeah.
could be fun and interesting. But then you know, but then I think we're, because of sort of where we're coming from, I think we're seeing it sort of like that couch TV kind of model still.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is it messy in your mind to try to have those integrated? Like, would you try to kind of simplify it and just do the game show as a independent project, and you know, independent of the groups, and then maybe layer in the groups, or you know, groups broadly defined as like the all friends
Mm-hmm.
hanging stuff
Yeah,
later?
yeah. Do you have like an idea of what the game show would be like? Would it be like an HQ trivia style thing where everyone like is competing with each other, or is it something like it's like a talent show and like everyone votes and like then if you're talking with your friends you can like decide whether or not it was good or bad or whatever?
Yeah, I think there's like a bunch of different formats that could be fun. I think that one of the things that I felt was really missing around HQ was it was very like one way broadcast, and it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it was nominally interactive because you were like choosing a question and answer, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't have the feel of a real game show. Like real game shows oftentimes have like a host and a guest, and there's like this banter, and the personalities come out to some extent. You know, like think about any game show if you've ever seen like Jeopardy. They first like do a little mini interview of each person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where are you from? What's your story? You know, they kind of get a little bit about the person, so you kind of start to feel connected to the people, you know, that you're doing it with. Or like in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is another example of a game show where
Mm-hmm.
you're like talking there's a host guest dynamic where you're talking through the answers, the questions and the answers. Is it A? I don't know. I don't think it's A, but is it B? B reminds me of this other thing. People just, there's like banter that goes between the two of them. And I think that that element was like missing in HQ. So I think like the trivia concept is kind of the easiest one to execute, but like, why couldn't you do a talent show? Why couldn't you do, The Voice or, or like American Idol style talent show stuff, or even like Family Feud is another kind of game show format. So I think just like a little bit of those structured games, but where it's like multiple people participating on kind of the global show, and then everybody else kind of hanging out in their virtual living room or virtual couch.
So if you have like let's say you have like 1 million people online at the same time, like how do you get people to participate in a live show?
I think probably having them scheduled would be important. So like maybe there's a live show is going to start at, I don't know, noon Pacific or 7 p.m. Pacific or something, and then we do the show. And at the moment of the show, everybody assembles to play the game and participate in the show. But then once the show's over, you still have your couch formed. Your living room is still kind of like activated, and like maybe some people peel off, maybe some people launch other async type, pub quiz style games, or watch YouTube together, like, or just hang out, whatever.
Yeah, but I was talking more about like the participatory nature of the thing, like. If you have them, like we were talking about, like a talent show or like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire type things, where like you have people participating, like how would you choose who's participating? Like would you just randomly select people? And then like, have you seen those Twitch streams with like, I think there's some Twitch streamers who they have like talent shows now, and they have like 70,000 people watching their Twitch stream, and then they have people in their Discord who like they go into a certain room and they start selecting one person from the Discord room and putting them onto the stage. And then cool. The talent show person performs, and everyone in the Discord, in the Twitch chat is like, yeah, you should let this person pass, you shouldn't let them pass. And it's
that's awesome.
Like, chat, what do you think? Should they keep going? Like that type of thing.
Right.
It's like, is that what you're imagining? Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess the talent show, I think, is much, much harder to pull off well, because, if you think about like the way a talent show works, you actually need to have a bunch of like pre-vetting and auditions and some selection process, and is it going to be magic or singing or dancing or anything, and how do you like judging the kind of prelims for that, so that you sort of roll up from the like, I think the way a lot of them do it is like they have like a city casting session, and people come in and audition, and then it's like, okay, you're making it to the regionals, you're making it to the main stage or whatever. That process is really hard. I think trivia is relatively simple to like, you could pluck somebody out of obscurity and be like, hey, you're going to play with us today, right? And just like play, and then maybe they're like good or maybe they're bad. It doesn't really matter, as long as they're not like a dud at talking to you. If you get somebody who like totally is like freezes up, maybe that's a problem. But if people are just like generally okay, hanging out and talking and not worrying that there's 50 people or 1,000 people or 1 million people, I think that can it's like a fairly low bar for what it takes to produce good content there.
I guess like I'm just still kind of like confused, because one of the things you mentioned about HQ trivia is that it was like a very one-way broadcast. Like fundamentally, all the ideas we've talked about are still going to be a one-way broadcast. Like even if there are like individuals being picked out of 1 million people thing, like you can use that for 2 years and they'll get picked out, right? So like what what is the interactive, like why is this different than a one-way broadcast?
Yeah, I think it starts to touch on other themes besides the one way. So I think just the idea that you can get plucked out of the audience, or maybe it's 15 questions and the first 5 there's nobody getting plucked out, and then if you get all the first 5 right, then you get plucked out, or you have a chance to get plucked out, or like, so I don't know, like all of the contours of the game design are highly uncertain, but I think just the chance that you might get there, that you can play for like something bigger, and the fact that I think what's interesting is if you get multiple personalities and banter as part of the show, instead of it being like like a one-way, like Scott Rogowski was kind of a one-way, he was great, he had a bunch of bits, he had a bunch of personality, that stuff worked. And when they tried to bring in other hosts, I think it didn't really work that well. But
Mm.
the thing they never really tried is like the host guest banter that is typical in popular game shows. Like almost any successful game show has a host who's good at kind of helping tell the story a bit. Or you take something like American Idol, they actually get all this like footage of the person in their real life and the struggles they went through, you know, at school or living at home or being in a wheelchair, whatever their story is. They're actually like telling a human story. And so you're sort of rooting for them when they get on stage, right? You're like, oh, I want to, like, I know who this person is now. I want to see them win. That stuff I think is kind of missing in the kind of HQ feels very like, or felt, I guess feels still, it's still kind of around, but feels very like, feels kind of one way still. You know, it's nominally live, but it, you know, I could just play anytime, and it doesn't really matter that much.
And I think like the first question you asked, like, and then I started asking these questions was like, would you separate like the game show experience from like the live audio thing, like hanging out with friends or whatever? The one of the things that I tried with Juice app, which didn't really work out, is like trying to get people to do things with like different intentions. So like making one action lead to a different action, and then leading to these like kind of spontaneous interactions. Like you'd post a photo and then people would collect there and talk, and then maybe they'd leave, but you'd post another photo and they'd come back and talk. And like I found that mixing intentions is kind of hard because like people don't really know what to use that for. They might just gravitate completely to one thing that's underdeveloped, and then you overdevelop that, and it's like, why is that other piece even here in the first place? So like one thing I'm worried about is like if there's a game show and the groups and the like, if the messaging isn't clear, then it might be confusing. Like, why do I use this app? Even though like hypothetically it makes sense. Like they'd collect for the game show, and then afterwards, like the residual, there'd be people left who'd be talking and discussing and hanging out. Like it makes sense in theory, but like I'm worried about like the mental strain, or like whether users can figure out why they want to use the app. Like
and it
maybe
touches
the game,
on
like maybe the game show can have the live aspect still, people talking, whatever, but maybe that's all it is, and then you just cut it off. But it's so fun and like entertaining for that 10 minutes every day, like 3 times a day or whatever time. Like that's really amazing. You know what I mean? And that's what people use the app.
Yeah, and maybe that's an argument to say that we should focus on like making the game experience, like the live game content experience, kind of an independent experience that we could integrate later, but kind of do it as an independent. Because even things like onboarding, like when you onboard today in the app, we prompt you to like, you know, share your contact list so we can help you find your friends. But if the point is you're coming on to play a game show, it's a little bit of a divergence. Like, why am I finding friends just so I can play a game show, right? So it touches a lot to make that kind of change. But it might be a good change to make for clarity.
That makes sense. Yeah. Another thing that I was kind of thinking about is like one really cool like analogy that I love that you're making. It helps me visualize stuff a lot. Is like everyone's sitting on a couch and just hanging out together. Like I'm curious if like you incorporated that flow into like the entire app. Like I remember one, like I don't know if the space stuff is still on the app. Like you started emphasizing heavy like on space and like shooting out like the radar to find people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious if like if there could be like some emphasis on just chilling together or hanging out, or like a couch almost at like a house, or someone is just like the mental models like people use a lot right now is like rooms, and like Clubhouse is doing the stuff with houses, and then they have the hallway, and then there's Twitter Spaces, and like it all just like mentally helps people like conceptualize what's going on. So like just like a couch with like a TV that everyone's interacting with, like that mental model just helps me a lot. So I'm curious if like that could be maybe incorporated, like if that could help users out.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we certainly could. I mean, there's a lot we could do in kind of design and language and positioning to help make that couch TV analogy a lot stronger. I think if we were to commit to saying that something like a live game show should only be run inside a couch room, then probably getting that idea bridged is useful. But if really like the game show could be played independently. Maybe it's better to just like reorient around that messaging to simplify. By the way, do you have a fan or something on?
Oh, that's actually my laptop. That I didn't know you could hear.
Your laptop fan.
Is it loud?
It just kind of did it just turn on a little bit.
Yeah, I just started getting hot.
Yeah. Is it really hot by you right now?
No, I mean sometimes it just gets really hot sometimes.
Are you in New York these days?
Oh no, I'm still in Dallas right now. I'm moving out to New York in like 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Cool. Whoa. Is there something hitting the mic? I keep getting some.
It might be the laptop fan.
Oh, okay.
Do you still hear
it? I hear the fan, yeah, but every once in a while it kind of it sounds like something sweeps across the top of the mic or something.
Oh, that was my hand. Like I was just seeing how hot it is. Like, do you hear it right now? If it's bad, I can go on my phone as well. If it's bad, I can go on my phone as well.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay.
So where's your head on kind of new products and stuff these days? Like, what are you most kind of curious about or excited about?
Honestly, I don't know his actual name, but the last Contrarian, like he brought up something about how people are very focused on the hook of an app instead of like the actual product of the app.
Right.
And like one thing I've learned a lot from you as well, like over the past few months, is like I love how focused you are on voice and hanging out, and like you have this like there's this value proposition, and there's this like thing you think needs solving, and you're just focused on solving it, and like you're not too obsessed with like, oh, what's our K factor or like what's our D30 retention. You're building something that you really think the world needs. And like I think what happens is I was kind of getting to a stage where like I'm just pumping out apps and I'm just trying to make something that works. So I'm iterating and I'm just like taking out the retention, and like I'm trying to force something to exist, and like I feel like that wasn't a good mindset. So right now I'm just like I'm not like I'm talking to people about different ideas, I'm brainstorming different stuff, but I'm not forcing myself to build anything. Like I'm honestly just trying to connect with as many people in like social right now as possible, and just like brainstorm and talk and see what's been done, and just like if there's some space or idea that I really think I can solve, or like I can add something to it, then like I'm ready to just go fully at it. But right now I don't want to force a product that doesn't really need to exist. Like I haven't taken any like capital or anything like that. Or I'm not like I can just build stuff that I love and that I think the world needs, and like right now I don't really have that idea.
Right. You had talked before about maybe setting up some core infrastructure so that if and when you're ready, you would have kind of a bunch of the pieces together. Is that something that's on your mind, or do you sort of have that split out in a way, or kind of what's your thinking on that?
So like I that was more of like the lab approach. Like that was more of like if I did have the infrastructure, then I could really, really churn out an app within like a week if I wanted to. But even without setting that up, like I think that will force me too much into the churning model, like just churn out stuff just to try to get something to stick. So I'm not really focused on that right now. I'm just like, once I have something that like I think is worth building, then I can like build it properly. Like I still have that code. Right. I have code for like photos and video recording and audio and like pretty much whatever social stuff you have. Like I have code for it. Right. But I don't really think I need a template, honestly. Like, I think that'll make me churn stuff too fast. Well,
this new, I don't know how, if you're comfortable talking about some of the new stuff that you just started on the Twitter DM stuff.
Yeah.
Is that something you're talking about publicly, or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not really like it's not like it's evolving so quickly. Like I actually just made it. I originally thought the chat would just it would be me, you, Mishti, and Alex. Like I legitimately thought that would be the original thing. So then I added you three, and then I texted Armand, and then I think someone added 2 other people, and then we're already at like 10 very, very quickly. And then it's like, wow, there's like a lot of really talented people here. And then like one of the things that I've been in like large group chats with like social founders, and it gets like 30 or 40 people, and everyone just adds everyone, and then it just dies because there's so many people there. So like one of the problems is like, how do we keep like these highly talented, really busy social consumer people like engaged and interested?
Yep.
And how do we give value to like other people as well? Because like I remember like even like a year ago, once I wasn't really like as much like as connected, I was just like still building products and I didn't really know that many people. Like getting in contact with people or just talking to people on social is so tough. So like it's so one of the things that Alex brought up was like creating a Twitter page where we just share like the best stuff from there. And
Yep.
then ideally what happens is like we have like a bunch of investors or like people who are interested in social consumer or whatever following the page and like getting really great insights on what's going on in social consumer from like the most talented people, or not even the most talented, just people who are really passionate about it, and that in
Mm-hmm.
turn will like make people more interested in joining the group chat, and then we add people to the group chat and they can contribute as well, and then they learn more and they get connected, and then we share
Right.
their screenshots as well, and they get that exposure and they can start building their brand or whatever, getting to know
Right.
people. It's like this really great cycle. There's like a couple of problems that me and Alex are talking about. It's like we want to make it like very fun and relaxed. Like this isn't like a product. It's just like we just want people to get connected, and I want to learn from people, and I want to brainstorm. It's like we don't want to make it feel like it's anything exclusive or like we're like some like exclusive DAO or like some like
Mm-hmm.
exclusive club or something like that. But we can't. We also can't just add everyone to the group chat because then we'll just inevitably die. Inevitably die. So it's like we're kind of stuck on how do we choose when to add people and how do we choose when to like kick people out, because we want to keep it small and tight knit, so we should constantly be like circulating people. So it's like how do we deal with all those things without like making this into like a product or anything and still being fun and relaxed overall?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I, I was just going to share a few comments on it because I think all of your thinking on it seems really sound and organic and real. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel like you're just kind of like stabbing around brainstorming something. You're actually doing something that doesn't feel like product work, but I think you're actually doing pretty good product work as part of that process. So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know if you like see that in yourself, but I wanted to at least point it out as an outside observer to your process.
Mm-hmm.
This you actually have all kinds of great people who are super passionate, who are connecting in this way that probably is tougher to do in products. When you sort of take it as a separate product and you say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
download my test flight, here's the link to
Yeah.
that stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually kind of hard to get that much vibrant energy going. And
Mm-hmm.
now just sort of because you sort of were doing it in a very organic way, you actually have this like really great feel. At least I
Mm-hmm.
I find it really fun to keep up on that group chat.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, yeah, I feel that. I feel like it feels like we yeah, I understand what you're saying. It feels like that product development without the code or anything. It's like how do you make
yeah,
it non-toxic and how do you like
yeah.
nurture the community, and like it's really fun.
So I kind of mentioned, and I kind of mentioned this sort of joking, but like partially serious, uh, which is, and I'm just curious if you sort of
You're
like
cutting
if this
out
resonates
if
or
I
you think
think
this
about
is
it right
interesting,
now.
but like
Can you hear me?
the thing that you're doing between like establishing a group chat, having kind of a gating factor, but public visibility of who's in it,
Mm-hmm.
and then screenshots that share snippets of the content out to more public audiences. Like there's a lot of very interesting social contours that you're playing with there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
what did you say at the beginning? You cut out for a little bit.
oh,
Like,
sorry,
yeah.
I yeah, I don't know which part cut. What what I was saying is
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much you're thinking about this as a potential product, or you're sort of observing the product, you know, kind of needs in this. Is that
Mm-hmm.
part of what's going through your head as you're doing these activities, or
Yeah, it kind of is because it's like how do we even like classify letting people onto here? Because if you call it like a wait list, it's like it kind of gives people this notion that they're not the first top tier, top choice people to get in the group, but that's not true at all because we just added 15 people, and now we have like crazy founders who are following the accounts. Like, uh, I don't know but we just have really great people, and we
yeah,
want to add all of them. So it's not like so how do we brand it and how do we make people feel comfortable? And like it's not like we don't want you in there. It's just like we're trying to figure out how to get you in there, basically, if that makes sense.
right? Well, yeah, I guess what I'm curious about with the whole experiment. Like, I'd be happy if we just all hang out and have a nice, group chat and meet interesting new people. I'm meeting lots of new people that I didn't know, but who seem talented that I probably should have been connected to. So I'm finding it does create this nice kind of mixing pot of people interested in this kind of similar concept of, similar set of things to explore. But I think I was just also pointing out that I think so I had an experience like this many years ago. I think in 2017, I was in a Telegram that had 100 people in it, and it was very vertical focused, and they ended up kind of getting all kinds of super interesting people together in the Telegram. And like, if you didn't open it every day, I think they could see like if you'd open Telegram. So if you didn't open it every day, you'd get booted, or every 2 days or something. And so it was like you had to be engaged with the thing, and then they had like AMAs they hosted on it. And, when somebody would fall off and they'd boot somebody, they had a list of people that they wanted to add, but they kept it strictly to 100-person limit. So there's a lot of like super interesting like social dynamics that existed there and that kind of appear to be emerging here to some extent. And I think the stuff you're doing with like the screenshots and sharing out little bits of like what happens here is pretty interesting. I think the way the AMAs worked, it would have been nice. It was kind of just a group chat with somebody we brought in as like an AMA, but it would have been cool if like that could have lived on longer as kind of a published piece, or a kind of a marketing asset, or like a information asset from the group. And it feels like there's potentially, I mean, I don't want to suggest race toward a product here or like productizing something here, but there's a lot of these things that it feels like there are some real product gaps that I've seen between how messengers work, how publishing tools work, how a town square like Twitter works. And I wonder, like, do you see those as things that might be worth productizing, or is it just, I mean, I know it's like a day old, so maybe it's not even worth maybe it's too early to think about that, but I don't know, that's kind of where my head goes.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Alex was actually the one who had the great idea of like screenshotting the conversations and posting them to Twitter. So that was really like brilliant on his part. In terms of making it like, that's like it's literally just yesterday once I was making a group chat with 3 people, and now it's like, is there like, I haven't thought about that. Like I've kind of like, I've thought about like the dynamics between people, but I haven't really thought about it as like a actual product. Like, I'm curious like how much of this is just because of the people and like the social dynamics. So the biggest problem is like they're like, for kicking people, right? We don't want to kick people and it's like, oh, we're banning you from this group, or you're getting kicked feels so harsh, right? And there's no like way to see how long a person was last active in a Twitter group, right?
Right.
Like,
Yep.
So and we can't even add like a bot to the group. So like, we're struggling to figure out how do we cycle through people. And like, we you could say like, okay, that's a product need, but there are products that like, if we were to put this in a Discord, right, we could add a bot or whatever. But a lot of why I think this is so great is because it's all happening on Twitter with people's profiles, and they're on it all day. It's like, I'm wondering if the product needs that are emerging, how much of them are like are already solved on like different platforms, and like if creating a different product, it would just like ruin the fun of it completely. Like, it's so fun. I think Anu mentioned like, this is really fun because it's on Twitter. Like, putting it on Discord would kind of make it like formal and serious, and like So that's kind of what I've been thinking.
Do you think that's true, that even to put it on Discord where you have more flexibility for bots and stuff, are you pretty convinced that would kill it, or do you think that's, I mean, I think it's like a reasonable hypothesis that it might not work as well there, but are you pretty convinced of that, or are you kind of like open to thinking about it, or?
I'm open to everything. Like, this is not really like it, I just want whatever like allows the most discussion to happen, because that's really the goal. I'm worried about like, I think it's really unique how this like a group chat, and that's like it's like the brand of that. There's a group chat and we share stuff from the group chat, and like, I think Discord would be more organized and stuff, and there'd be a lot more features and bots and whatever. But like, I'm worried that it would change this, like there's a group chat and a Twitter page dynamic. It would become like, it's like this. I'm worried it would feel like work, basically. Like, it would feel too much like there's all these separations of everything. You have to figure out which thing to post in or whatever. Versus here, it's like, mentally in your head, you're like, okay, wow, there's this group chat of like really talented people, and like, I love seeing what they say, and I was in it last week. I'm not in her anymore. It's like a fun dynamic, and then I'm back in it next week, and then
Right.
this social. We're talking about like we were talking about something about live trivia or something like that, and then like a couple of minutes later, someone who built like HQ trivia was commenting on it.
Right.
It's like that
Yeah.
dynamic is crazy, and I'm worried like a Discord would might ruin that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's the risk of that, but I would also point out that like so much of it depends on how you assemble like the first group
Hmm.
and what that group wants to do and like how easy it is for the group to accomplish
Yeah.
what they want.
Uh-huh.
Because that other one that I was in many years ago was hosted on Telegram, so it didn't have any of the Twitter tie-ins that you're saying maybe what makes this work. Now, I'm not
Hmm.
saying you're wrong about that. I'm just saying, a thing like this, the thing that really worked there is that they just had all the right people. And
Hmm.
because all the right
Hmm.
people were on there, it was exciting. It was like way more interesting to me to read that group chat and all the links shared there than it was to like read Twitter. Like
Hmm.
reading
Yeah.
Twitter became boring relative to reading that group
Yeah.
chat
Yeah.
because all the
Hmm.
information I wanted, none of the spam, no trolls, everybody's in good faith. Like it
Hmm.
kind of really worked. And I think so. It's at least one example of that I've had experience with where it did work off of Twitter. That's not to say that this thing shouldn't be on
Hmm.
Twitter. This should have more features. Like I think
Yeah.
it's a day old. You guys should sort of decide
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
want.
Uh-huh.
An
Sure.
experiment. But I guess I'm just saying. While I think the point is true that like you lose some energy if you do have the right people and the discussion's vibrant and fun. I
Hmm.
don't think I don't think you're restricted. Like I don't think a
Mm.
Twitter DM group is the only way to accomplish what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely valid because we're also facing the problem. I'm curious, like, what you think about this is like we want to like cycle through people almost like we want to keep it very small and intimate because like it feels very like close right now,
Mm-hmm.
and to do that and also allow new people in, we have to figure out how to like kick people out, but not like in like we're kicking you from the group because the context or like the feeling behind kicking someone feels so like powerful and like it's kind of hurtful,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm
Right.
curious, like ideally, like if we were in Telegram or something, if we just have a bot that would just get rid of people who didn't say anything for a day.
Yeah. Yeah, you just like set
So
up a bunch of rules, and it's like no harm, no foul. It's just like you
mhm.
understand the way that works. If you're not active for
Yeah,
2 or 3 days, the bot just kicks you out. And like it's not like somebody's imposing their will. It's like
yeah,
that's
exactly.
the way the game
That's the way it
works.
can, yeah, hmm yeah, like
Whereas when you don't
that's
have that bot, you don't have the plausible deniability. You're like, I'm Jibran, and
exactly.
I'm like gonna tell you
Exactly.
how
Yeah.
this
And on
works.
Twitter, like I'm the only one, the only the group admin can kick people out. Like I can't make anyone admin as well. So like this is supposed to be something very fun and lighthearted, like that type
Yeah.
of feeling. So I don't want it to cause drama or like any hard feelings or anything like that.
Right. One of the things that I find cool about it is, and I find this in other places too. So like recently we were talking about Farcaster, and I think one of the things I like about Farcaster is that it is small and intimate, and so like I know many of the people or the people who I don't know. Ooh,
Oh, sorry.
ooh.
My bad.
Is that hitting a
Wait,
microphone or something?
I'm not sure where the microphone is. I was just touching my laptop, so
Oh,
it might
okay.
have. Sorry about that.
Um, so yeah, so I think one of the things I like about Farcaster is that it's it's just like this kind of intimate curated group, and so like I know a lot of the people or have run across them at one point or another, but I don't know all the people, and so I meet new
Hmm.
people. But the people who I'm meeting, it feels like a big group chat to me rather than like a public discussion sphere.
Hmm.
And obviously, like structurally, it could scale to a public discussion sphere. But I think the value I get out of it is more intimate curated group chat. And I think a group chat solves a lot of problems that something like Twitter is not effective at, which is like onboarding a new user is really hard. You have to figure out who should they follow and what are their interests and what's going to give them a good
Hmm.
experience. Then if they don't have any followers, they're shouting into the void, so they don't really have anybody to talk to. Like bootstrapping a new user in Twitter is hard. Bootstrapping a new user in a group
Yeah.
chat is actually relatively easy, right? Like
Hmm.
as long as you get curated in, like, oh, this guy's smart, bring him in. It doesn't matter if he's
Yeah.
not invested in the platform. invest in building an audience on the platform, he can actually commingle with the existing audiences of all the other people who are there, right? Kind of the way people have have a celebrity on your podcast and you get some of their audience. That same dynamic doesn't really exist in Twitter for like bootstrapping new users, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I wonder if like the group chat structure is actually better for helping organize public conversations, and they may not be like fully public, or they may be. I don't know. Like maybe there's a version where the group chat is curated by you, but then maybe like anybody who wants could read it.
Like it's like an
even read
open group chat. Oh, that's interesting.
Because you're screenshotting the cool bits, right? But I'm not. Like, I feel like when I say something there, I'm like, I would expect it could be said, it could be screenshotted by anybody, it could be published on Twitter and elsewhere. I don't feel any real sense of like if I DM you one-on-one and then you like post that and it's like something you kind of know I didn't really want to get out, that'd be like awkward.
Yeah.
Whereas the group chat is wide enough context that I don't think anything I say there could be awkward, but I have like real people's ideas to react to. So structurally, it feels much easier to participate than like kind of open, follower graph style Twitter Farmcaster.
Yeah, and even with the understanding that stuff might be shared, like I don't feel like I still don't feel that pressure right now. Like I don't feel like I'm texting with like a worry of like, oh no, this might get shared. Like it feels very like I would feel excited if stuff got shared. Like that's the vibe I'm getting right now.
Yeah, it seems fun. Yeah. It seems fun when it gets shared because also like, I don't know, like open public Twitter certainly does get used this way to some extent, meaning like as a form of group chat, but because it needs to serve the very like, it because it's supposed to be open, public, accessible to anybody, it also means like there's complexity in how things get threaded and how you follow conversations and which conversations get shown. Whereas a group chat's very simple. It's like what was said in order. And so you could imagine like having that as the primary consumption unit is you basically consume from the group chat of 50, but then, maybe 1 million people could be reading it. And maybe there's even like a, like you called it, I think like the orbit or something, or somebody called it the orbit. Like maybe there's like the people who are not in the 50 who can kind of like lob an idea, kind of test flight, test balloon kind of an idea at in like a almost like a queue of interestingness. And if you're interesting, maybe that'll be your intro to get into the group or something.
Yeah, I'm wondering like this is like a very special use case that we're using this for right now. Like I'm wondering like as an actual product, would something like this actually have other use cases? Maybe like it would be interesting to see like just experts in their field talk to each other. I'm curious, like maybe this even has like relevancy to what you're working on, like with live streaming and stuff and people participating. I'm curious, like if that could work as well. But like imagine in like the app you're working on right now, like if there's the expert, like actually that's kind of like Clubhouse as well. You have like the expert panel and it's kind of like Clubhouse but for a group chat. What you're suggesting, right? It's like you have the panel of people who are talking and discussing or texting in this thing, and then everyone else is observing and reacting, and like they can get called in if they're deemed relevant enough, kind of.
Right. Yeah. Like I guess in the case of Clubhouse, you have like the live stream nature of it, and I think people generally don't do. I don't know how much of it gets like recorded versus published and listened to later stuff. So there's like a lot of things that are different in audio versus text.
Yeah.
Like just meaning, I think what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it would fit into a live stream scenario, but I think the thing I'm suggesting or observing about what you're doing with the group text is that there's a lot of threads to pull on within that group text idea, and you're sort of already doing a little bit of this. The screenshot is an example of that sort of almost like a stage audience separation, but maybe there's an opportunity to bring somebody with a good idea onto the group chat, which is kind of the stage that has more visibility.
Yeah. There's like a ton of people that we kind of just want to bring in right now, but it's just like we don't know how to do that because we don't know how to kick out people right now. So that's why we're like, there's like so many like amazing people we just want to add like right now, but it's like if we add them and the group chat it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we start losing intimacy, and like maybe not with one or two people, but if we just let it get out of control, like we need to figure out how do we get not like how do we cycle through people as well, basically, like what is the
Right.
process for that, and then we can
Right.
start adding people, and like it's like a cycle, so I'm
Yeah.
curious about how that would be done.
I mean, I like the dynamics, and I think they are tricky. The scale question, like what is the perfect size? My guess is like different people would want to host different sizes of these. Like I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that one that I was in had 100 people, and it did not. It actually was super vibrant. Like there'd be
Mm-hmm.
probably like I don't know thousands of messages a day,
Oh
and
wow.
like all good stuff. Like I was thinking that it would be cool if there were something almost like a way to upvote a message that you thought was good so that somebody could get like an overview, because people already complain about that in your group chat, right? As people say like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
can't keep up on this. But if you could
Yeah, yeah.
sort of if you could almost have people help curate the good links or messages that get sent, and then you could just have like a catch up overview of almost like a subreddit view of that group chat.
Mm-hmm. That could be interesting as well, because there's already kind of like a dynamic sometimes of people screenshotting texts and sharing them. Sometimes I maybe
Yeah.
as something like use case, but like I could see that as like a standalone group chat thing where it's like stuff is meant to get shared. And it's like a public, it's like a group chat with friends, but stuff gets shared and upvoted, and right, like that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. That's cool. I think there's. I mean, I think it's nice in that you're sort of not building software,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just focusing on the social dynamics. I think that's like
Mm-hmm.
100% the that's the magic. That's what works, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
also it gives you a lot of space to like experiment. All I'm suggesting is like I think there could be something more here too. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're like fully excited yet, or that stuff you want to keep kind of just
Mhm.
observing and
I'm,
thinking
I'm I'm
about. But
holding myself back right now from running
yeah,
code. Not just for this, like literally last night, like I'm not really working or anything. I just coded like this window that you can like look to. I was trying to make it look like a ship where it's like swaying back and forth, and you can see a video through it that's like slightly blurred. Like I was
hmm
literally just like I'm holding myself back right now from
yeah,
building something just so I can just learn and really see what's out there first.
yeah,
But
yeah. It's good. I
yeah.
think like figuring out kind of behavioral stuff and social dynamics is like kind
Mm-hmm.
of probably the more unknown. It's like the harder to sort of pin
Yeah.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you can solve that, then you can figure out maybe how to productize it. But
Mm-hmm.
productizing it before you figured out the social dynamic is kind of probably a lot more pain, like we've all been experiencing for years.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Cool. I know I've got a dinner reservation, so I should probably wrap soon. But this was fun. We should do
Yeah,
some more.
this is cool. This format is really sick as well. I've never done this,
Yeah.
so it's nice.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for coming to join on short notice. And
Yeah,
seriously,
definitely.
like let's do another one. That'll be fun.
Awesome. Let's do it. All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later then.
See you, Jibran. Later.
All right. Bye.